this committee and the American people that assurance.
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened now? I can't believe this is even...
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe you're asking such a question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
Not a summary by you sitting here. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case.
And sitting here today,
Senator, 72% of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question?
Brought to me.
You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is horrible.
Aware of a...
Do I know if you committed a crime? I have not looked at it.
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president has
We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has
You know what we should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
The crime rate in California right now is through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I
No, I'm
won't
just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power, so let me ask
investigation
you another.
like you did
Let
leaking
me
your
let me ask
colleague
you,
Devin Nunes's memo.
if you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election? Yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question, if you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election? Yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went as
That's
an
not my,
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my
campaign.
question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people?
As the gavel falls and the hearing chamber exhales, the echo of one exchange still trembles through the marble halls of Congress. "I can't believe you're asking such a question," Pam Bondi snapped, her composure cracking beneath the relentless insistence of Representative Adam Schiff. In that single moment, an outburst on live television, an entire political age seemed to reveal itself. It wasn't simply a clash between two officials, it was a collision between truth and power, between the rule of law and the temptation of loyalty. Moments like these are not measured in decibels, but in consequence. Schiff's voice, calm but cutting, framed the hearing not as a spectacle, but as a test of constitutional faith, when he asked whether Bondi could tell a president, any president, no. The silence that followed said more than any prepared statement. It was the silence of hesitation, the kind that seeps into institutions when fear replaces principle. The hearing was meant to probe the next Attorney General's independence. But what unfolded on the record was something larger, a struggle for the moral center of the Department of Justice itself. Schiff invoked the Supreme Court's ruling in Trump v. United States, a decision that, in his words, lies about like a loaded weapon. The court had affirmed that a president may be immune from prosecution for acts committed under the cloak of official duty. For Schiff, that ruling wasn't just legal theory, it was a live grenade in the hands of any leader who mistook power for impunity. Bondi's answers, or refusals to answer, illuminated the fragility of the system. She would not commit to saying there was no factual basis to investigate special counsel Jack Smith. She would not confirm that Liz Cheney should not be jailed for defying the president. She would not even affirm the basic truth that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Each "I will look at the facts" became a refrain of evasion. Each pause a window into what happens when political survival overshadows civic duty. And then came Schiff's crescendo, measured, deliberate, almost mournful. "Do you have the intestinal fortitude," he asked, "to tell the president the truth?" It was not a question of party, nor policy, nor even law. It was the question every democracy must eventually confront. Will truth be told when power demands silence? Bondi's refusal to commit, her invocation of neutrality, her insistence that she would never play politics, echoed the rhetoric of every official who mistakes cowardice for professionalism. To the casual observer, her restraint might appear careful. But beneath the surface, it revealed something darker, the normalization of fear. When speaking truth to power becomes playing politics, the republic begins to rot from within. As the hearing dragged on, Schiff's inquiries cut closer to the bone. Would she advise the president not to pardon those who beat police officers on January 6th? Would she promise to preserve the evidence from that day to ensure history could not be erased by executive whim? Each time, Bondi retreated to the same fortress of ambiguity. "I will follow the law," she repeated, but following the law is not the same as defending it, and in that distinction lies the peril of the moment. In that chamber, America was not just watching a nominee, it was watching itself. The faces behind the dais, the murmurs from the gallery, the cameras trained on each flicker of expression, all bore witness to the question that has haunted every democracy since its birth. What happens when loyalty to one man outweighs allegiance to the Constitution? For Schiff, the hearing was more than an interrogation. It was a warning. His voice carried the weight of recent history, of lies amplified, violence rationalized, and institutions bent beneath the strain of obedience. His questions were not traps, they were mirrors. And what reflected back from Bondi's hesitation was not confidence, but caution, the kind that corrodes public trust. By the end, the air in the room felt heavier, as if the building itself understood what was at stake. Schiff's frustration was not merely personal, it was generational. Every senator, every citizen, every viewer watching from home could feel the tension between two Americas, one still governed by ideals, the other governed by fear. The exchange ended not with resolution, but with exhaustion. The chairman's voice signaled the close of the first round, but the damage had already been done. The questions that hung unanswered were more powerful than the ones spoken aloud. They lingered in the corridors, in the headlines, in the uneasy quiet that follows every moment of truth deferred. This hearing was not just about a nomination. It was about the architecture of accountability itself. In the eyes of history, the refusal to say that an election was fair, that violence against police is wrong, or that evidence must be preserved will not be remembered as caution. It will be remembered as complicity. Democracy depends not on the perfection of its leaders, but on their willingness to confront the truth, however inconvenient. What we saw in that room was a test of courage, of integrity, of whether anyone still believes that the law stands above the leader. As the cameras fade and the microphones go silent, one truth remains. The future of justice will not be decided by rulings alone, but by the character of those entrusted to enforce them. The republic endures only so long as its servants choose principle over power. And so, in this fragile hour, as the echoes of that hearing fade into the archives of history, we are left with a question only the people themselves can answer. Will we demand truth from those who serve us, or will we accept the silence of convenience? Because when truth becomes optional, democracy becomes ornamental. And if the law can be bent for one, it can be broken for all. This has been Congress Chronicle. Subscribe to the Capitol Watch. Stand with those who still believe that power without accountability is tyranny, and that truth, no matter how unwelcome, must always have the final word.